Hello and welcome back everyone to PK Ideas for the second episode in the How to Play Chess series. So now what we'll do is we'll start off with a small review of what we did in the previous episode just to refresh our minds. So here we are, a chessboard 8x8, there's 8 squares this way, 8 squares this way, there's light squares and dark squares, 32 squares each of each color. And the lines that you see right here going across like this are called ranks, and the ones going down are called files. And files are labeled A through to H, and the ranks are labeled 1 through to 8. And now these are called diagonals, as we had talked before. And how we symbolize squares on the chessboard is by using coordinates. So this square over here is the ABC and 1, 2, 3, so this is the C3 square. Okay, so that's a short review of what we did the previous session. Now let's get into the pieces. Now there are 6 different types of pieces on a chessboard. You have this piece over here, it's called a king. Then you have a queen, you have a rook, a bishop, a knight, and a pawn. So these are the 6 different types of pieces, and of course white also has the same amount of pieces and the same types of pieces. So here you see that we have a starting position with all of the pieces on the board. So here we can see that these are the pawns, this is the rook, and each player has 2 of them. This is the knight, each player has 2 of them. This is the bishops, each player has 2 of them, and this is the queen and this is the king. So each player has 1 of those. Now going back to where we were before, let's talk about each of the individual pieces. Let's start off with the pawn. So now the pawn is the lowest value chess piece of the board. A pawn is equal to the pawn. Now how we count the value of chess pieces on the board is by using the pawns itself. So imagine if a pawn is equal to 1 point. So a pawn is equal to 1 point over here. So we take the next piece. Now we take a knight. So a knight in fact is worth 1, 2, 3 pawns. And let's take the next piece, a bishop. Now a bishop is also worth 3 pawns over here. And if we take the next piece over here, a rook is worth 5 pawns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we have the next piece, a queen. Now the queen is the most expensive piece on the board, simply because it can travel long distances. Now we'll get to how the pieces move later, but this episode is just mainly about how the pieces are valued. So a queen is worth 9 pawns. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a queen is worth 9 pawns. So each of these pieces' values are described in pawns. So you have a pawn 1, knight 3, bishop 3, rook 5, and queen 9. So it's really important when you're moving pieces on the board to always make sure that hold on, if I'm going to take this piece, with what piece am I going to take this piece on the board, and whether the piece that you're taking is lower valued than the piece you're taking with, as well as whether he can recapture a higher valued piece on the board. So as you can notice that I've only put up 5 pieces on the board, and I've said that there is actually 6. So we go back to the starting position and we come to the most important piece in the game. And that piece is in fact the king. So as you might have heard, the king is described to have no value. The reason why the king has no value is because the king pretty much determines when the end of the game is. So if you lose your king in your game, it means that you lose the whole game, and that is how you win a game of chess. You manage to trap the enemy king, and you have to give him a check while trapping the king and stopping him from going to any of the squares that are surrounding him. Okay, so now that we learned what the pieces are, the next most important thing to learn is where the pieces go. So here is a blank chessboard, and what I do is I quite quickly set up the chessboard. So I'll start off with the white pieces first, and I'll just quickly set it up. And now I set up the black pieces. Okay, so there we go. You just saw me set up the whole board. So now let's just pretty much go back and see how do you actually do this? How did I do this so quickly? Okay, so here we go, a blank chessboard. Now, the first thing to make sure on chessboard when you're setting it up is that you have a light square on the lower right hand corner. So either the H1 square or the A8 square will always be in your lower right hand corner, and they will always be white. Sometimes when you got the board set up incorrectly, you might have the H8 or the A1 square on your lower right hand corner. So the first thing to ensure, the first fail safe, is to check whether you have a light colored square in the lower right hand corner. So now in this board we see that we do, and now we progress forward. So the first thing that we do is we set up the pawns. Now the pawns cover the whole of the second rank as well as the seventh rank. So in this case, the second rank is going to be all the white pawns, and seventh rank is going to be all the black pawns. Now if the sides were inverted, if this was the seventh rank and this was the second rank, then these will be all the black pawns and this will be all the white pawns. So the first thing to ensure is to fill up the board with your pawns on the second and seventh rank. Okay, so the next thing to do is to actually set up where the queen is. Now, in terms of the queen's placement on the board, the queen is always placed on the color square that she actually is. So, per se, the white queen is going to be set up on a light colored square, and then the black queen is going to be set up on a dark colored square. Now, the king is placed right next to the queen on the right hand side for white, and for black it will be on the left hand side, like so. So the king always goes on the opposite colored square of the queen. So the black king goes in a white square and a white king goes on a black square. The next thing that you and then the next failsafe that you do is to ensure that there are three squares in between the queen and the edge of the board, as well as the king at the edge of the board. So here you have a queen and you have three squares, and here you have a king, you have three squares. And in terms of white, king three squares, queen three squares. Okay, so the next thing to do is to set up the rooks on the very corners of the board, like so, for both colors. Next comes the bishops that you set up right next to the king and queen. And now the last piece left to set up is the knights. So you set up the knights like this. Okay, now you got a complete board. So setting up the chessboard is something that we do every day before we start a chess game. So it's always important to ensure that you've always got the board set up before you start your chess game. There's a rule in chess where if both sides play 3 moves with the position set up incorrectly from the starting position, they're not allowed to change it. So always make sure that your starting position is actually correct, that you have the three fail safes that I talked about, that the square on the lower right hand corner is a light square, the queen is in the same colored square as it is, as well as there's three squares next to the queen and to the edge of the board, and the king to the edge of the board, so that the other rest of the pieces fit there. So that is setting up the board. To improve on setting up the board, what I suggest that you do is to simply just take a blank chessboard and just simply visualize where all the pieces go. So do that for about a minute, come off the board and do something else, and then go back to the board, do it for about a minute, and then come off the board, and then do it back on the board for a minute, and then come off again. So repeat this 3 times about once a day, and then you'd pretty much get it by the end of the week. Another thing that you can do to practice is using a timer. You set up the board as fast as possible, both for the white pieces as well as the black pieces, because setting it up really fast means that it is written into your muscle memory as to where exactly each of the pieces go. And so with that being said, that is pretty much the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you like this series, please leave a like and comment down below as to what you liked about the video. Another thing that you should do, and that I'm actually interested in, is that I want to know who you are and where you're from. It would be great if you guys can do that. If you want to check out some of the other series that I do, there's a current Road to Glory series that I'm running if you're a much more advanced player, so you can go check that one out. The stakes are a bit high in there. Another thing is that this series will be continuing quite regularly, so please don't hesitate to get your beginner friends onto this. so that we all enjoy learning playing chess together. The last and final thing is that you should subscribe and then click on that notification button, because you should get a notification every time that I post something on my YouTube channel. And so with that being said, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time for the next video.